let's maybe a couple of consolidation things, and then we'll go back to the hands, and we'll just one hand raised now. Right now, Eric, we'll hit him up. Um, can you speak on relocation or consolidation? What's being discussed? What's the timeline look like, etc.?
So no timelines have been introduced, but for those who are new to this topic, for the first time ever, it is now the law that they are going to take 3 en route facilities and combine them to one. That was something that we adamantly opposed during the budget reconciliation process. There was a $12.5 billion investment from the House. We worked with the House on where those monies should be situated. We lobbied very hard for a $1 billion investment in the recruitment and retention and training of air traffic controllers. And that doesn't mean that we would just get $1 million or $1 billion to figure out how NACA decided to split it up amongst each other, but it was going to once again create opportunities for recruitment and retention in the ways that we engaged the agencies on the very desires that we had from the first round of discussing it. But ultimately, while the $12.5 billion investment was what was passed, it was the Senate's language that they put the House in a bind when they left the House with their language and saying, take it or leave it. And ultimately that was adopted and passed in the legislative process. So the $1 billion was reallocated to other lines. Again, we lobbied against that and said you should adopt the House language. We supported where those investments went. And one of those lines was a $2 billion investment into 3 centers becoming 1, and then an additional $100 million to study how to go down to 6. And I think we can all say with a straight face, if there is no finalization, there's no one out there saying it's written in stone that it will be these facilities, but that was introduced by Ted Cruz. So I think it is safe to assume that the facilities they are talking about taking 3 into 1. Again, there's no finalization of this. It is Fort Worth Center, Houston Center, and Albuquerque Center, and then finding a rest of U.S. locality spot and saying, there you go, that's where your new center will be. When I saw that language being proposed, I put a team together, asked Joel Ortiz, Dan McCabe, and others to look and explore alternatives of what we could do, and then also worked with our NACA Safety, Technology, and Leadership Council of core components and principles of what any consolidation should be and what it should consider. Talking about safety, resiliency, continuity, being as safe, if not safer, and then also that it should be about the workforce. What was passed in legislation is a real estate decision. If you have 3 buildings, you can combine them into 1. It costs less money to maintain 1. You have a loss of 2 facilities, and thus your real estate decision can yield in potentially more money saved, but a majority of that would be off of the pay and wages of the very people that would be moving, and then the very people you're going to ask to help modernize an entire system. Instead, we came up with, all right, while there's the core principles of what a consolidation should do, is it should also keep the people in mind and not move thousands of people, thousands of miles, hundreds or thousands of miles for that real estate decision. We could take our large TRACONs that are standalone, and if there is a center nearby, and combine and verticalize, or I don't know if verticalize is a new word that just made, is look at the vertical components of how those 2 facilities interact, consolidate them, and look at the efficiencies that can be gained. And where one may have to drive 5 to 10 minutes longer than the other now, no one had to move. There was no upfront cost to the agency for it, or to the government for it, in a negotiation of moving all those people thousands of miles, plus all the other workforce that would go along with it. It's not just controllers alone. And that would be yield in being able to do the very things in the modernization of the system that has bogged down this super center concept for so long. Just putting airspace together to put airspace together isn't going to serve anyone. So again, there's no timelines associated with it. We continue to advertise that there is a better and more strategic way, and one that makes sense. And just taking the entire Northeast corridor and combining them into 1 center, and then having a bad weather day and no one being able to go to work, and you essentially freeze all the traffic in and around the United States from the airlines. We're working with not only the aviation groups to explain that, we've worked with Secretary of Transportation, the administrator to socialize that with other labor industries to all say that isn't going to put us in a position for success. That is a plan, but we have a better plan and a better way to approach it that will be where, again, it keeps the workforce in mind and allows the system to be modernized. So that is the law as it exists, how we're trying to combat it, the legislative process that we need to do to, I would say, or the change, and that's going to come through having the appropriators appropriate the monies to a plan that we are supporting, not to the one as it currently exists in law today.
All right, thanks.